Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Pump Fake. Jarrett Bailey with you, as always, joined by my good friend from SB Nation, JP Acosta. What's up, buddy?
Nothing much. Doing really good. We're getting into the trade deadline, which now means the NFL season can really start.
Yes, I think it was what was it, Bill Parcells once said that the real season starts around Thanksgiving. We still got a month until then, but we're starting to see teams make moves. We got less than 2 weeks until the trade deadline. So today, JP and I are going to be playing a little bit of an NFL trade machine, going through trades that we think will benefit certain teams and certain players. And it just makes sense overall. So each of us have made a small handful of trades. We're going to present them to each other and just have a little bit of a discussion about it. So, as always, my friend, I will allow you to go first with your first trade in this exercise.
So my first trade is a little bit reflective of where both teams are, and specifically the team that is trading, but are trading for the player. But I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers trading for Los Angeles Rams receiver Cooper Kupp. As soon as the rumor or the tweet by Dan Orsinger went out that uh, Los Angeles was looking around for trading Kupp, the Bucks were the first place that I looked at. They were the easy, obvious answer. Liam Cohen obviously spent time with the Rams, but specifically, he was their receivers coach from 2018 to 2019. He worked with Cooper Kupp in his early years. Obviously, that offense, they need receiver help. With Godwin out for the season, Mike Evans is out until week 11. And I honestly think Cooper Kupp and Baker Mayfield would actually kind of cook together.
Mm.
But Cooper Kupp would fit easily into that Chris Godwin role. The thing about not Godwin, the thing about Kupp is he's a very specific receiver that might not fit everybody's team. He's a
Mm.
power slot, but what he does is he creates easy separation in the short to intermediate areas of the field off of free releases. He's not necessarily going to be a buzzsaw against man coverage and press like he was at his height of his powers. But as a complimentary number two receiver, he can still be one of the best in the league. So I would love to see Tampa make that trade and kind of keep their season rolling, because they're still in the hunt, not only for a playoff spot, but they can win that division still.
Yeah.
I would love to see them trade for Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, and I figured that one of us would do a Cooper Cup trade scenario and whatnot. I strayed away from it because I figured that you were. That's Tampa Bay is not even a place that I highly consider, but when you look at all the connective tissue that you just pointed out, it is a place that would make a lot of sense. I know a lot of people are saying, okay, maybe the Steelers. We'll see what comes of that. Maybe Baltimore if they were to go that route. But Tampa Bay is a very fun one with all of the prior connections on both ends of the trade. So that's good. I love that. I also have a receiver trade on mine, so I'll stay in that route and just go with that one. So mine is also an NFC team to an NFC team in terms of a trade, and I think that in terms of a team that has a lot of money that would be getting this player, and it makes a lot of sense to just go all in with this quarterback that you have at your disposal on a rookie deal. So I'm going to say the Washington Commanders trade for Diontae Johnson and give a really nice compliment to Terry McLaurin on the outside. You look at what Jaden Daniels has been able to do this year. It's largely been with Terry McLaurin and a lot of filler. Zacchaeus and Diami Brown, Luke McCaffrey. If they get another legitimate outside threat, I think that makes their offense that much more dangerous. So give me Diontae Johnson to complement Terry McLaurin and go along with Jaden Daniels. And I think Washington, we're already seeing that they're in line to really make a push for an NFC East title, and maybe make a push to win a playoff game or two and really surprise some people. And I think if you add Diontae Johnson, one of the more underrated guys in the league, got traded from Pittsburgh to Carolina in March, but obviously that whole experiment hasn't really worked out to Carolina's benefit, where it hasn't moved the needle whatsoever. Diontae Johnson's a good receiver. I think he would be the perfect 1B or number 2 to Terry McLaurin for a Washington offense.
I really like the Diontae Johnson to Washington, largely because of what Diontae Johnson is as a receiver. He is a complementary receiver who can create easy separation in
Yeah.
short areas. And that's something where You know, if you look at Washington's offense, they are so predicated on the quick game and getting the ball out horizontally. They are the horizontal air raid. They're going to be flooding 4 guys to one side of the field. Cam Taylor-Britt said it was collegey. It was a college offense. He's not wrong. That doesn't mean it's a bad offense. It's just very collegish. And Diontae Johnson would fit in that role as the Z receiver next to a guy like Terry McLaurin. If you think about all of Cliff Kingsbury's offenses in Arizona, where they were most effective was when they had DeAndre Hopkins and AJ Green on both sides. So you couldn't just roll coverage to DeAndre Hopkins or roll coverage to AJ Green. You can't roll coverage to Terry McLaurin anymore. You can't with Diontae Johnson in the fold. You have to stay disciplined. And now you can even play more matchup ball, more numbers ball, which is what the Commanders really do. I really like that trade for Diontae Johnson, especially because, like we said, the Panthers aren't really going anywhere, and I think they fire sale.
Absolutely. So that is my receiver trade of the exercise, and I think that both of those make a lot of sense. What is your second one?
So I'm going to stick with the Carolina Panthers.
Okay.
And I'm going to go what was old is new again. The Panthers trading Jadeveon Clowney to the Baltimore Ravens.
Oh, okay.
The Ravens are right there. Like, they are there. They are one of, if not the best team in football right now. The offense is a buzzsaw. I think the defense can use a little bit more help. And I think they need a little bit more juice in the pass rush front and just more depth. You know, you're relying a lot on Odafe Owe, on David Ajabo, who's finally healthy off the knee injury, and Kyle Van Noy, who for some reason just still continues to be one of the better pass rushers in football. But adding Clowney back to that roster, what he did so well in Baltimore was he was a hammer. You know, when we talk about all the simulated pressures and the stunts and the games that they play up front, what Jadeveon Clowney does best is he is the guy that's going to dent the guard for Justin Madubuike to come loop around. Or he is the guy who is benefiting from Nnamdi Madubuike, denting the tackle and him looping around. He's not a win one-on-one any guy anymore. He is going to win off those games. But I think where every contender can use a guy and use more depth is along the pass rush front, because that's what's going to help you win games in the playoffs. So, like I said, the Ravens are right there, and it might as well just help like a little reunion, you know, get a little reunion going.
I like that a lot. And I've seen similar trades in the same vein of like, okay, maybe the Chargers trade for Mike Williams and just bring him back into the fold to give someone, to give Justin Herbert, you know, a reliable target and a familiar target. So I like that idea of, okay, you know, we didn't bring this guy back, but we need somebody who's familiar with the system and that has been an impact player for us before to help make us better. I like that a lot. And we've seen that Baltimore's defense this year has, you know, you can put up points against them. We saw Cincinnati do it a few weeks ago. And if they can bring in anybody to help fill in those cracks, I think it makes a lot of sense to bring in, you know, a familiar face now with Clowney and I think that's a great idea. I love the idea of it. And I can't imagine it would cost them too much to do it. So that all around makes perfect sense for Baltimore to do. I love that. I'll stick with the defensive line for my next one. The San Francisco 49ers are 26th in the NFL in EPA against the run defensively. So not used to seeing this level of, or I guess lack thereof, production from the 49ers defense. So bring in a veteran guy to put in the middle of the defensive line. I'm going to say Calais Campbell to the 49ers from Miami. There's obviously a lot of connective tissue with the Dolphins at 49ers, considering Mike McDaniel came from there. We've seen plenty of guys go from San Francisco to Miami. Now we're going to see one, Calais Campbell, a veteran, still playing at a high level, even at his age, go from Miami to San Francisco and help plug up some holes in the middle.
I do like that with Calais Campbell. He is still playing some of the best football of his career. I've said that we will be old and withering away, and Calais Campbell will still be making tackles for loss on 1st and 10. That he's just that kind of guy. And I love the positional versatility he can bring to San Francisco. You know, they need help up through the middle of the defense. You know, I think they have really missed having a true nose tackle on that team, and they rely so much on Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw to kind of clean up the mistakes or lack of depth up front. But adding Campbell to that front, adding Campbell there would really make sense for them in terms of getting more pop from the pass rush and being able just to be, instead of being 26 against the run, you could probably be around like 20th.
Right.
Just that small bump would really help them out a lot. So I really like that one.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, you pointed to the versatility. It's a guy you can put at 0 tech or 3 tech. You can put him all over the defensive line. He can do a lot of different stuff. So I love the idea, and I think that would help plug up a lot of their issues when it comes to stopping the run. So what would be your next trade?
So this one, I'm gonna get a little reckless here.
Okay.
I'm gonna get a little like, this is probably a pipe dream, and in no way do I think it is going to happen.
That's fine. That's why we do this.
But send Trey Hendrickson to the Detroit Lions.
Oh, I love that.
The Lions need help along the pass rush front, especially even before Aiden Hutchinson went out, but especially now that Aiden Hutchinson is gone. I mean, what they're doing now, they're trying to use a lot more simulated pressures, a lot of schemed up blitzes to try and get free runners. But you need a guy who's going to go get you a bucket out on the edge. And Trey Hendrickson, we have seen him take over games. The Chiefs almost lost to the Bengals because Trey Hendrickson took over that game. That is the entire Bengals defensive game plan, which is Trey Hendrickson go do something. And I think Hendrickson on the Lions would be a perfect player team scheme fit. And, we have heard a little bit about Hendrickson wanting a rework contract and the Bengals not doing that in the offseason. There's so much stuff going on with the Bengals needing to pay their players. Hendrickson might be the odd man out come this offseason, so might as well just bring him in for a 1 year, like help us get to the Super Bowl and then see where it goes from there.
If I could give you a standing ovation right now, I would. I love that idea. That's fantastic. The only thing with it, I know you pointed out, it probably won't happen, is if the Bengals do that, they're punting on the year. He is their one difference maker defensively, where if you get rid of him, you're basically saying, we're not going to win it this year. We're acknowledging that. And, because of that, we're just going to try to get something for Trey Hendrickson while we can. So I love the idea, and I think that we both probably don't think it'll happen, but in theory, it's a lovely idea, and I think it's great. My third trade is NFC to AFC, and it's a team that started off hot, but has since lost 5 straight. So I am going to say that the New Orleans Saints trade Tyrann Mathieu to a team that needs help on the back end to make a push for a Super Bowl, and they send him to the Buffalo Bills. When looking at the Bills defense, the biggest weakness that you can circle is safety. They have long had one of the better tandems in football with Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde. Both of them are no longer there. And they've tried to fill in those cracks with the likes of, Damar Hamlin, who's a great story, not a starting safety for a contending team. Taylor Rapp is, I think, a good 2 or 3 rotational guy, but if you could get somebody else in there that is a legitimate number 1 safety, Tyrann Mathieu is still that, even at age 32. He's still a guy that can come up in the box and make plays against the run, which he's done this year. He's already got 2 interceptions. Could have 3 if he caught a ball that Bo Nix threw directly to him last Thursday night. So he's still playing at a really good level, and I think if you add him to that Bills defense to go along with Hamlin and Rapp on the back end, you still have Cole Bishop that they drafted out of Utah. So you can make the secondary better. Their cornerback tandem's good with Roswell Douglas and Christian Benford, but the safety tandem, that's something that you need to upgrade, in my opinion, for Buffalo. So if you can go and get a Tyrann Mathieu, I think you do it and make your defense that much better. And by the way, who better to know how to help defeat the Chiefs than a guy who helped them win a Super Bowl in Tyrann Mathieu? I think it makes all the sense in the world to bring in the Honey Badger for Buffalo.
I like where you're going with this, and it's largely because of what the Bills tried to do in the offseason. They knew they were going to get rid of a lot of experience in that secondary. Yeah. And with those lack of reps, you've seen just the lack of experience show up for a team that needs that safety play to be really good, especially how they play the run. So adding Tyrann Mathieu, who not only is still playing at a high level, but he's playing at such a high level, playing from the top down, coming off the roof of the defense. And that is something that the Bills need their safeties to do. So having him kind of be your number 1 safety, and you can rotate in guys like Mike Edwards, you can rotate in Cole Bishop or Taylor Rapp or whoever you want to play next to Tyrann Mathieu. It will bump everybody down. It'll be sort of similar to how the Amari Cooper trade worked for the Bills.
Exactly.
Yeah. Bump everybody's role down a little bit in the rotation, and then they're better off suited in that role. I like that idea. and I kind of think it might work just because of where the Saints are. And if they're really going to try and kick this, if they're going to try and punt and start the rebuild, I would be fully in on it. But I don't know if the Saints are going to try and fully start that rebuild yet.
Man, we've been saying, oh man, it might be it's time for the Saints to do this rebuild for like 4 years, and they just keep kicking that can down the road by being just good enough to not be horrible. So we'll see if Mickey Loomis actually decides to pull the trigger and actually do something in terms of planning for the future rather than being kind of stuck in a past or stuck in the present where they're not going anywhere. But if they do, I think that Buffalo is one of those teams that should be on line one. That's three. Did you have any more at the top of your head? We've only gone 15, but I definitely have a small handful of guys that could help contending teams.
I do. And the first one is a coast-to-coast one in the AFC. Okay. I am sending Kendrick Bourne to the Los Angeles Chargers.
Yep.
And look, we all saw what happened Monday. We all saw that
JP,
game.
Will Dissly had 11 targets. And I had to listen to the guys in the booth be like, oh, Will Dissly's actually right. No, he's not. He's Will Dissly, respectfully speaking. Like, come on now.
Who else is going to get the ball?
I know, bro. I know. It's not good.
This is like when you watch that NBA team that doesn't have any stars, and you're like, wow, that guy's really good. It's like, no, he's just the one who has to take all the shots. So
it's like Laurie Markkinen when he was with the Bulls and they stunk. He's like, all right, he's fine.
So adding Kendrick Bourne to that team not only gives you another reliable blocker in the run game, and I think that's somewhere where the Chargers have not been good in the last couple of weeks. They haven't been good up front in the run blocking, but it gives you another guy who can separate. That's their biggest issue. They have no receivers who can separate. Yeah. Every throw is a tight window throw. And while Justin Herbert can make those tight window throws, you want to make it a little easier on him.
Right.
So adding a guy like Kendrick Bourne just is a reliable receiver. And they're not out of it in the AFC. You are still in this playoff race at 500. You can still make a run, especially in an AFC that is very watered down.
Yeah.
You can still make that run. So I would expect for the Chargers to be in the market for a receiver. But if they can't get any of the top guys, Kendrick Bourne might be worth making a phone call for.
Yeah, I assume that's going to be a team that we hear about, calling about Cooper Kupp, and I'm sure Cooper Kupp wouldn't mind. He wouldn't have to move or change addresses. He can stay right where he is. But yeah, I think that maybe somebody like a Kendrick Bourne would make a lot of sense. The Patriots have a lot of guys that you can kind of look at, maybe like a KJ Osborne as well as somebody that could come in and be acquired to at least help boost a receiving core that really doesn't have a lot. I think if they weren't in the same division, Jacoby Myers could be a guy that they could look at, but any sort of receiving help that the Chargers can get right now makes a lot of sense. One that I had in my head, and you pointed to a Lions one in terms of an edge rusher. I was thinking Trayvon Walker to the Lions, if Jacksonville would be open for business for that. I know that that's not something that you want to hear as a Jaguars fan, but I wonder if they would be if that would be something that could be realistic and happening.
I think it would be realistic, especially considering where the Jaguars are. I mean, they're 2-5, but again, I think they can make a run. It really depends on where they go on Sunday. If this crashes and burns against the Packers on Sunday, I'd expect them to be sellers. But Walker fits what Detroit looks for in terms of, I talked about Trey Hendrickson, but Trayvon Walker is what Aaron Glenn and Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell look for in a pass rusher when it comes to size, length, hands. And I think the thing that kind of gets the lack of focus on it, because Aiden Hutchinson is very good. Yeah. Trayvon Walker's been awesome this year. He has been amazing.
I think he's on pace for 14.5 sacks this year, so he's having a really nice start to the year.
He has put together the best stretch of football in his career since back half of year 2. I think that'd be a really fun trade. You get another big physical guy who is a monster in the run game, and then you continue to build out a guy who can win by himself or as a stunter or a looper in pass rush situations. I like that trade, but I wonder if it would cost Detroit a little too much.
Yeah, and I can understand that to an extent, but for a team who, has, like, where are the weaknesses for the Lions? I don't think that that's a team that needs to load up too much on draft capital. So they can probably afford to send, overpay for a guy like that if they need to. So I wouldn't mind seeing them, at least if they have to overpay, then overpay a little bit. I think that would be fine. Did you have any more that you had maybe drawn up and had in the put aside pile in case?
So I have another one. I have another one for the Minnesota Vikings, who
Okay.
are very, very good, but I still think they need a little help. I am sending Nate Hobbs from the Las Vegas Raiders to the Minnesota Vikings.
Ooh.
I think Nate Hobbs is still a good corner, but he's versatile. He can play inside, outside. I really want to give the Vikings corner help, so I'm gonna wedge in another guy here, Greg Newsome.
I was about to say Greg Newsome. That was going to be my next one. Yep.
I think Newsome would be the better size, height, weight, speed fit. And he is an outside corner who has to play inside because Martin Emerson and Denzel Ward are very good. But in Minnesota, he would play outside. We saw against teams that can wad up the pass rush like Detroit did, you can attack these corners. And that's always been their biggest weakness on this team. If you can wad up that blitz, if you can protect against the blitz, you can attack these corners. I give up capital to go get a Greg Newsome or go get a guy like Nate Hobbs who can be sticky in man coverage, but also smart enough in those situations to play those heavy quarters and just some of the versatile roles that that Brian Flores is going to ask of them.
Yeah, and we've seen Minnesota like over the past like handfuls of drafts really attacked cornerback heavily just because they haven't really been able to find anybody, and they've signed a lot of veterans. Patrick Peterson was there for a little bit to try to be somewhat of a stopgap guy. Shannon Sullivan playing nickel for a little bit, so they haven't really been able to solidify the position. So I think that just going out, giving us some capital to get a guy that is good, I think that makes a lot of sense. So I like that a lot. Grant Delpit was another guy I was thinking of to send somewhere that might need safety help. Obviously, I already sent Tyrann Mathieu to the Bills, so he wouldn't go there. What's a team in your mind that would benefit from Grant Delpit off the top of your head?
For Delpit, that's interesting. Also, the Bills also were a quick thought in my head.
Yeah.
I think potentially, if they think they can make a run, maybe the Broncos. The Broncos,
okay, I like that.
The Broncos technically right now are in the playoffs.
I know, which is crazy to think. And I got to tell you, I don't care. I don't think that lasts.
We have seen crazier. That defense can backdoor themselves into
That's true.
a playoff.
I think to me, they are, if they do get in the playoffs, they're the 2021 Patriots, where the defense does a lot of the heavy lifting. Bo Nix plays a Mac Jones role where I think we kind of see him peak as a rookie, and that's probably as good as he can get. So I think that they're very remnant of that team should they be able to get in.
Yeah, I mean, Broncos schedule, they still have games against the Chiefs twice, the Falcons, and I mean the Colts are weird, but you get the Panthers and the Ravens. You get the Panthers, you got the Browns, you got the Raiders, you got the Colts, and you got whatever's going to be the Bengals at the end of the season. Like they can make a run realistically. All they got to do is win what? You win.
I think you win 5. If they win 5 more games, I think that it would be hard because they own a tiebreaker over the Jets. So even if the Jets make a run, they're going to have to outwin the Broncos. And if they beat Cincinnati, okay, well, Cincinnati, that's another loss for them. They're probably not going to get more than 9. So, I mean, if you can get to 9 wins as Denver, you might be good for the 7 seed.
Yeah, and we don't know what the Chiefs are going to be in Week 17.
Yeah, I mean, you could be going up against Carson Wentz.
Yeah, they could be a team where they already locked up the 1 seed, and from there, it's like, all right, I guess we don't need to play anymore. So, adding Delpit would make that defense really fun. I really like their secondary already with Riley Moss, Jaquan McMillan, and Pat Surtain II. But I do think their safeties can use a little bit more help. And Delpit's a good player. Like he's a solid safety who can wear a lot of hats for a defense. But I really like that trade. I like him going to Denver. I do have another one that'd be incredibly funny just for how this entire thing panned out. The Atlanta Falcons need more pass rush. They do not have anybody that can generate pass rush. How about we send Hassan Reddick to Atlanta?
Yes, sign me up. That's so funny.
He just showed up this week, and they're waiving all the
fines and stuff. Yeah,
but again, like, where is he going to play? because he doesn't really solve any of their issues. They're still fine against the pass. They can't stop the run, which is making every third down 3rd and 2, and you can't turn up the pass rush that way. Sending Reddick to Atlanta would give them 2 bookend edges where Judon is more of a guy who wins on games and loops. Hassan Reddick wins with speed off the edge, so you can be a bit more versatile. And if you need a guy, like we said earlier with Trey Hendrickson, to go get you a bucket, that's going to be Hassan Reddick off the edge. And you think about some of the games where Atlanta has lost, they haven't been able to sack the quarterback. They haven't been able to get pressure on the quarterback. And you think about a team like Tampa, who you're going to have to play again to try and win that division, you need to get pressure on Baker Mayfield. That should be another team. Honestly, Tampa trading for Hassan Reddick would also make a lot of sense in terms of just desperately needing pass rush. But I say Atlanta would make the most sense in terms of just, man, you got to get somebody who can get the quarterback on the ground.
I want to see the Cowboys just make a random funny trade where Jerry clearly overpays for somebody that you don't need to overpay for. Like, I would love to get a notification like, oh, the Cowboys just traded a 4th-round pick for Miles Sanders. Like, oh, okay, Jerry, go for it.
It's going to be. It's either going to be 2 completely different players on the spectrum of NFL knowledge.
Okay.
One of them is going to be Khalil Herbert from the Bears.
For the Bears.
That would be realistic, makes sense for the Cowboys, and you don't have to give up a lot.
Yeah.
The other one is Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
That would feel like the Dallas Cowboys move of the year. Like they think they are so much closer to winning seriously in the playoffs that they add Cooper Kupp. And Cooper Kupp would make sense for Dallas in terms of where they need like receiver help. I'd worry a little bit about he and Lamb kind of overlapping with each other in terms of where they're most effective. But that is the most Dallas Cowboys move they could possibly make. You know, I think that is the most, like, Jerry Jones is sitting there waiting, ready to make that phone call to let us need to try and get Cooper Kupp.
There's a few different moves that they could make on the defensive side of the ball too. Like if they wanted to go get somebody like a Zadarius Smith, or if they wanted to, I mean, we talked about the Raiders earlier. If they're open to trading Robert Spillane, I don't know if they would be, but I mean, that's a guy that you could plug in the middle of that defense and instantly make that unit better. So different areas that they can do better.
I'd even go Carolina with Ashawn Robinson in terms of their inability to stop the run. Osa Odighizuwa is a free agent after this year. And if you look at their defensive tackle roster or their depth chart, oh boy, it gets a little rough. Adding Ashawn Robinson would make a lot of sense.
Or even like a Maurice Hurst, maybe, if Cleveland would make that move.
Yeah, like guys like that, where, you know, we talked about Calais Campbell. Like, again, like those type of moves at defense along the defensive front would make a lot of sense for that team because that is one of their biggest issues.
I want to see the Bears make a move for like one more edge rusher. I think that would make an already really good defense, just put them over the top, whoever that may be. I don't know. Would they bring back Khalil Mack? Is that something that can be explored?
Oh, man. I think that would take a lot more capital than they want to give up.
Sure.
And the first guy that came to my head was Josh Uche.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
England, but I worry that he and Darryl Taylor are a bit like their skill sets both overlap in terms of being designated pass rushers. If I were the Bears, honestly, I would stand pat unless a good guard comes available. You know, like maybe you're talking like, I don't know, if the Pats have a fire sale and, you know, send like Cole Strange somewhere. I doubt it happens, but the Bears should be on those moves. You know, just for those types of players, maybe a guy like whatever Tennessee is doing, I would see what Tennessee is up to.
Would they trade Jeffrey Simmons? I know they just paid him, but is that somebody that you could see them moving on from?
I would think so if they want to generate much more draft capital.
Yeah.
To kind of fully kick off that rebuild. But if you think about where Denard Wilson comes from as the Jets DB's coach, they had Quentin Williams in the middle of that defense. And the way that they run that defense, they play 4-man, very aggressive, a lot of quarters, cover 3. They need an impact defensive tackle. The guy I would look for defensively, there are 2, are Harold Landry and Roger McCreary. Landry can still be. That is the Bears guy. If they want
Harold Landry.
Landry, who they should go out and get. I love Roger McCreary's game. He's an inside-outside guy, but he mainly plays in the slot. So I'd love to see him go somewhere where you can just unleash him in the slot. I would call about L'Jarius Sneed, who hasn't played.
Yeah, I mean, you might as well.
Like the only place he can't go is the Chiefs.
Right.
So you end up just helping like try and stop the Chiefs. But I called about him. Maybe Tony Pollard. I don't know if Tyjae Spears isn't healthy, then I don't think they make that trade.
Sure.
But I would give them a call. But it feels like they are the biggest team ready for a fire sale. Obviously, with sending DeAndre Hopkins to Kansas City and Ernest Jones to Seattle, I'll call for them a lot. Who else? I think the Raiders potentially.
Yeah, at this point, like if I'm a team that needs a receiver and I can't get Cooper Kupp, I'm calling about Jacoby Myers. Even if like I think Jacoby Myers is probably a better fit for some teams than Cooper Kupp would be. Like I mean, I'm a Steelers guy, and a lot like Derek Bell, shout out DB, really wants Jacoby Myers. So he's kind of talked me into that a little bit. So I mean, if you want to go get Jacoby Myers, that could be something that you pay attention to.
I call for Michael Mayer, maybe.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because I think they play a lot of 12 personnel, but Brock Bowers is getting all of the targets.
Yes.
And Mayer is a bit more of a blocker. I think he's better in the underneath and like blocking area than Bowers is as a receiver. Sure. So I would call if teams need an impact tight end to kind of get their offense over the hump. I would call about Michael Mayer, potentially Colton Miller, who just got back. If you need a left tackle, I call about Colton Miller. For teams that do need left tackle help, I do think Jacksonville is going to move off of either Cam Robinson or Walker Little. Both are impending free agents. Robinson has dealt with a lot of injuries. Just got a concussion last week. I don't know if he's out of the protocol yet, but Little is big. He is young. He hasn't played great, but I think that's because he's been the swing tackle who's played right and left. So maybe you get him in a better offensive line room and, you see what happens. I mean, it's a big dude who can move.
I feel like Michael Mayer would be a good shot for like the Dolphins. Somebody like that who could use a little bit of help blocking up front, but also occasionally utilize as a receiver. The reason that Mike Gesicki, I think, got frustrated is because he didn't get a ton of targets and he's more of a vertical tight end. So if Michael Mayer, I mean, he can still be utilized without having to get a boatload of targets in that offense and keep Tua cleaner and help open up holes in the run game.
Yeah, I think I would look for, if I'm the Dolphins, I'm looking for guard help. I'm thinking like maybe Nate Davis out in Chicago, who has kind of lost his job. I would call and just see what they're looking for. The most important thing is keeping Tua upright, and that starts from the guard center guard combination. I think Austin Jackson's played well. Teron Armstead has played well when he's healthy, but that guard center guard combination has got to play much better. So I would call about Nate Davis maybe. But I do think if there's any team that can make that run in the AFC after starting slow, it has to be the Dolphins. Like they have the most talent.
Yeah, and I guess it looks like they're going to be getting Tua back. And once they do that, Tyreek Hill also coming back. So if there's any team that can, they're 2-4 right now. They're not out of things just because of the reasons that we've already talked about. The AFC's kind of poaching each other. So we'll see. It's going to be a fun second half of the year. JP Acosta, what have you got coming on SB Nation?
So, as always, you can look for Established Fun. Came out on Wednesday. I wrote about how Patrick Mahomes is kind of doing his new-gen Tom Brady impression. I wrote about how the Packers drew up a world of hurt on the Texans' offensive line and how the Cardinals, the little tiny Cardinals, were able to stop the Chargers' run game in one of the bigger upsets I've seen this season. So, look out for that. Otherwise, follow me on Twitter at Acosta32_JP. See what I'm going. See what I'm doing.
Lovely. Follow me on Twitter at JBaileyNFL. If you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to it as a podcast, leave a review, a comment. As always, we'll be back tomorrow to preview Week 8 in the NFL. Week 8 Sundays and Monday slate. So enjoy your day. Thank you so much for tuning in as always, and we will see you very soon on the Pump Fake. Take care.